What's happening, everybody? Welcome back to Spoken. Today, I thought we'd start this party with Spider-Man 2099, an absolutely amazing looking character. I just love the aesthetics of him. I mean, them broad shoulders guys just stand out. He just looks absolutely awesome and looks like a total beast. And he is a beast. This guy is actually very, very strong. They did a lot of good things for him, but I do feel he's a bit incomplete, especially compared to a lot of the characters that we have today, especially the level 80 and tier 4s, which we're going to talk about here in a little bit. So Spidey 2099 is a speed superhero. I'm actually kind of surprised that they didn't make him a villain. However, he is a hero, but he does have the leadership tag and the agility tag. Now, that's awesome that he has the leadership tag and the agility tag. Those come in very handy in World Boss Legend. However, you're going to find that there's a lot of other characters that actually have tier 4s and level 80s that can be used in those same stages that are actually going to be just a whole lot easier to play and probably going to have a lot more survivability on top of not being a paywall, right? I mean, he's really got the odds stacked against him in all honesty, guys. But as far as his build, you can see that I have pretty decent stats. My ignore defense is at 46%. Could be a little bit better, but his dodge is at 38%, right? And he does have a pretty unique kit. I do have a 5-star physical attack Uru, so I could make him a little bit stronger if I had mythic physical attack Urus on the character, and they did a lot for the character. For one, they gave him a tier 3 that has a 200% damage proc on it, and that's phenomenal. But something you're going to notice about his tier 3 is that there's no invincibility on this thing, which is pretty surprising. He does have penetration, which is good, but I'm actually blown away that there is no invincibility on this thing. And this is going to be something else you're going to notice throughout his kit. His passive, they changed it. They gave him the increased guaranteed dodge rate by 30%, which helps his survivability. They also give him a little bit bump in his increase of skill damage, which is nice. His 1, no big deal. The 2, no big deal. The 3rd skill, they gave him a 50% increase of all attack on this skill, which is awesome. That's a huge, huge buff. And then the 4th skill, they gave him a 15% heal, which is terrible, absolutely abysmal, and Netmarble should be ashamed of themselves by putting such a small heal on this character, especially when you look at the rest of his kit. Now, he does have 60% attack on this skill and 30% critical rate, which is amazing. Like, that's awesome, guys. That's really, really good. But, I mean, 15% HP heal, terrible. And then his 5th skill, they went from 0.3% accumulation to 0.4%. Now, when I look at this accumulation, the first thing I think is, man, this is just too small. But when you play with him, you find out that he's actually very, very strong. However, whenever you're competing against all these level 80s, I do think that they should have bumped him up a little bit more, especially considering that he is a paywall character. I mean, semi-paywall, you can get bios for him from the Dimension missions, but it just would take forever. Plus, you're going to have to more than likely pay $40 for a Mega Uniform ticket to max out his uniform, or buy a bio sub to get a bunch of bios to max out his uniform. So he's not a cheap character to build by any means. And that's one of the things that really hurts this character. But he is really, really strong, especially considering 0.4% accumulation. His passive is nice with the barrier with 3 times, the invisibility, the ignore targeting, really helps the survivability. But something you guys are going to notice, just like his tier 3, there's no invincibility. There's no immunity to all damage in his kit. Nothing. And they only gave him a 15% HP heal, right? And normally when I see this, I would really probably rant about it. I don't like it. I do think they should have given him some immunity to all damage, or at least some invincibility. Invincibility preferably, because then he would have super armor. But you'll find that he can stay alive, guys. He's not too difficult to keep alive because he has a lot of iframes, but there are moments in certain fights where they can ignore your iframe and they can do damage to you. So that is something to be wary of with this character. Now, when it comes to his rotation, you'll see in the runs that I'm going to do, guys, my rotation is going to be a little bit different, but all you really got to do, guys, is just go 2, 1, 3, 4, 5, right? Put the proc on the 5th skill, and then afterwards, you're just going to run around, wait for your 5th skill to get off cooldown, and once it's off cooldown, then you're just going to proc on the tier 3, and you'll find you'll do the most damage that way. You'll actually get all your residual damage from the 4, which is nice, but you're just going to go 3, 4, 5, tier 3, and then boom, shakalaka, let it play out, and then you're just going to start the whole rotation all over again. After the tier 3, you can do the 2, 1 if you choose to do so, but he's a really simple character to play and a very proc-friendly character to play. And I don't even have the best build on him, which is going to be pretty impressive considering what he's going to be able to do today in today's video. Now, I do have a stage 9 Power of Angry Hawk set, so this is not fully built up. I could definitely get more damage out of him. His type enhancement is at 5, and that's going to come in handy against Mephisto, which we're going to be doing today. I don't have his artifact, and we just have a regular CTP of energy on him. Now, I don't think this is the optimal obelisk for this character because he doesn't have invincibility, he doesn't have immunity guard break in his kit, so I really do think that giving him a CTP of destruction or an obelisk with immunity to guard break and a damage proc would be really the best way to go for this character, because having that immunity guard break will help him from getting guard broken, but nonetheless, he'll still do really, really good damage with this thing. Something else I guess I should mention about him is that his leadership does have 50% ignore dodge, and that can come in handy. But again, guys, with the level 80s, they don't need ignore dodge, right? Now, if you're playing with a character that isn't level 80, then this leadership, could come in handy. And then his uniform is at normal, and I'm not going to level up the uniform, guys. His uniform effect, they did give him 20% chain hit damage, and they also increased his basic damage to boss types by 20%, which is awesome. Decreased basic damage received by 20%. So they really didn't do a whole lot for his survivability other than iframes. They just, the decreased basic damage received by 20% and the 15% HP heal really isn't good enough, in all honesty, especially considering that he is a semi-paywall, a character that you do have to pay money for. They could have done a better job with him. I really feel like he's a little incomplete because, again, he doesn't have any super armor, no immunity guard break in his kit. He can get guard broken relatively easy, and they really didn't give him enough survivability. These are a couple things that they really could have changed for the character. But having that said, guys, he's actually very damn strong. Like, this character is pretty freaking OP, if I do say so myself. So let's bring up the runs for you guys. We're going to do a couple runs. We're going to do one against Null, and we're going to do one against Mephisto. Now, against Null, we're going to be doing stage 49, where you need speed heroes, and we're using Wave, of course, and we're going to use White Fox. Now, White Fox gives, 30% ignore dodge, so I don't need to use his ignore dodge, plus he's got CTP of energy. So we got 50% ignore dodge up at all times, so I can just use strikers that have damage to super villains, right? And stage 49, guys, for a level 70 character is really, really good. And he will do this with relative ease. It's not going to be that difficult for him. Initially, when I first started playing this, I was always using the 2-1-2-1, but you really don't need to do that in every single rotation. But I was doing it because this is initially how I started. Now, his invisibility is nice, but you guys will notice that he does take a lot of damage. And this is kind of why they should have gave him a higher HP heal. Like, really, seriously, 15% in this day and age in Marvel Future Fight is really a disgrace to any character. It really is, guys. Like, they should do a minimum of 20%, 25%, but really 30% would be, I would think, a standard, really, for most characters. They don't do it for all, but that's really what they should do. Now, it is nice that he does use a lot of iframes, so he doesn't get hit by, like, say, the tentacles from Null and certain attacks that are coming at him. That is nice, but it's just really strange that he doesn't have any invincibility or immunity to all damage in his kit. It's strange, right? Because, say, for example, he's standing in the toxic meteorite and he doesn't have any immunity to all damage up. Well, he's going to be taking a lot of damn damage when that is going on, right? It's just, but guys, this only took me one try. Like, this was just one try, jump in here and do this. So, yeah, it would appear that his survivability isn't the greatest, but at the same time, it wasn't really all that difficult to keep him alive due to the iframes that he has. He's got a very unique and different kit than other characters because of that, because of the fact that he doesn't have any invincibility, any immunity to all damage. It's really strange, but I personally would have preferred them to give him a little bit of all that, because it would just increase his survivability, especially considering that they just gave him a 15% heal. Really, Netmarble? Honestly, guys, that kind of annoys me whenever they do things like that, especially there I got interrupted, which really sucks. That's kind of the disadvantage of not having super armor, right? A Null can interrupt you if you're not able to get in your fist skill fast enough, right? And you can't even use, like, a lot of times when we play with these characters, say, like, we might want to use their tier 3 just because it has invincibilities. Like, say the character only has immunity to all damage in their skills, but they have invincibility on the tier 3, which is pretty standard for most characters and most tier 3 characters. A lot of times what we do is we'd hit the tier 3, so that way we'd have that super armor from the invincibility, and then we'd be able to go in our skills so we don't get interrupted. But with Miguel here, it doesn't work that way because you just don't have that option available to you, right? but his movement speed is good. He's really fun to play. He's really easy to play, in all honesty, guys. Like, he's very prop friendly, super easy character to play. But I mean, the problem with Miguel, right, is that he's competing against top tier characters that are available in this specific game mode. I mean, you have Shadow Shell, you have Spider-Man, you have Black Widow, and now you have Miles Morales, all of them which that have level 80s and tier 4s, right? And that's what he's competing against, you know. And as far as the leadership tag that he also has, well, guess what? You know, some of those other characters that I just mentioned have that also, right? Miles and Spider-Man both have the leadership tag, and they have level 80. So I feel like Miguel, even though he's really strong and really easy character to play, that a lot of players are going to probably skip it because, one, he's an expensive character to level up. They really didn't do a good enough job on his survivability, at least in my humble opinion. Don't get me wrong, he can stay alive. I mean, honestly, it's pretty impressive how well he can stay alive considering like his kit. But I mean, we were able to do this in 4 minutes with a normal ranked uniform, regular CTP, no mighty, no nothing. I mean, he's strong. He's got a lot of power. There's no doubt that this character is strong. So now we're on to Mephisto, right? And this is, you know, a high level. This is stage 54 against Mephisto with the same exact team. And just like Null, guys, like, you know, this is a speed superhero stage, right? Where we have other characters that have leadership, that have agility, that are speed superheroes that you can use in here, like Spider-Man and Miles, who are just much easier to level up, don't cost as much. You don't have to buy a bio sub to level up the uniform. You don't have to buy a mega uniform ticket that costs about 40 American dollars to level up. And this is really what hurts this character. I mean, this is kind of the thing about Netmarble, this little trend they do, is that they don't really give these paywall characters enough justice to really justify spending on them unless they're your favorite. I mean, obviously, I think that goes without saying, no matter who your favorite character is, if you're willing to spend on them, then it's absolutely going to be worth it for you because that's your favorite character. But for practical players and players that are looking for characters they can play with, it's just not really feasible. But he is a fun character to play, right? And he is a strong character. There, I missed my third skill. We lost a little damage there. The old fingers got a little wacky there. Damn it. Right? Kind of screwed up my rotation. Right. So I wasn't able to go into my tier 3 as fast as I should have been able to. So we definitely could have done this a little bit faster. This would have been a little bit better run if I wouldn't have screwed that up a second ago. But I mean, stage 54, guys, like normal rank uniform, he's pretty potent. Like, the dude's got some power, right? And that invisibility is nice in his kit. I mean, that does aid in his survivability, and maybe that's what Netmarble was thinking, but they really should have gave him a better heal. I mean, he's getting decreased damage received also from White Fox because, you know, I have her OP uniform, right? And that helps his survivability also. So for those of you that don't have that uniform, it might be a little bit more difficult to keep alive. You might have to use like fire resist strikers, especially against Mephisto, if you're pushing this high level with them. But there again, guys, there's other characters that have level 80s available that have better survivability, especially Spider-Man. Spider-Man has crazy survivability, and he's just easy as hell to do this with. He's very, very proc friendly in his newest uniform. He's got the level 80. I mean, honestly, guys, just a lot better, really. I mean, just a lot easier to play. I mean, really has all the same things going for him that Miguel has, except he's just stronger and honestly easier to keep alive, man. So that's kind of the thing that's hurting poor old Miguel, right? Like, it's a strange thing because they made him strong, they made him have a lot of power. It seems like his survivability is okay, right? I can keep him alive. This run was only maybe a couple tries, guys. It didn't take me a whole lot of tries to be able to do this. So that tells me, you know, in this high level, that's not too bad. But I mean, you know, the tier 4s really just kind of screwed up the tier 3s. You know, every time I look at tier 3 characters and I see other tier 4s that have the same requirements, the same, like, you know, they'll have leadership or they'll have the same abilities. I just, that's who I'm comparing them to because, well, that's what I have to do, right? I mean, Miguel on his own is a good character. He's definitely strong, definitely got a lot of power. But whenever you compare him to other characters in the same league as him, as far as being a spider character, as far as leadership, as far as agility tag. There's just other characters that are honestly a lot easier, have better survivability, do more damage in here than him because they have the level 80s available. Like those, man, in tier 4s really, like in my opinion, guys, have kind of just skewed things so much that anytime we get a tier 3 that's even strong like Miguel, we just kind of like, yeah, I mean, he's strong, he's got a lot of power, but it just doesn't compare to the tier 4s, right? That's the thing that hurts him a lot. And like here, he isn't immune to stun whatsoever. He has no debuff in his kit, and obviously if I was using a different leadership like Maya Lopez, that would definitely help. I could actually face tank Mephisto right now if I had that leadership. But since I'm not using it, we can't really do that, right? They didn't give any kind of debuff in his kit. That would have been cool if they gave him a debuff, kind of like what they did with Spider-Man. That would have been really, really good. That could have helped him a little bit also, right? Or could have helped his survivability. It's almost like they really kind of lacked on purpose. They really didn't want to give him too much, right? Maybe in order to make the tier 4 shine more, but honestly, guys, the tier 4s would have shined no matter what because they have level 80s, right? And because Miles, the tier 4 of this update, is a free-to-play character, right? He's going to shine no matter what, right? I mean, they really should give more love to these paywall characters if you're going to spend your hard-earned money on these characters. But it's like one of these situations with Miguel, right? I think for most players, they're probably going to skip it. They're probably going to skip the uniform because, in truth, they really don't need it. He doesn't offer any support passive for any characters, but he does have very, very good damage. He does have a lot of power, and I'm impressed by his power, but I just think that he isn't really what he needs to be in order to justify buying this uniform and especially investing in this uniform and leveling it up. They really, I mean, again, guys, they really should have gave him a better heal. They should have gave him some invincibility in his kit so he at least would have had native super armor. But having said that, I do think that he's definitely a character you can have a lot of fun with and play with. But because of all the strikes against him, unless he is one of your favorite characters, I really wouldn't recommend buying this uniform. But guys, let me know how you're all feeling about Miguel. And I do stream on Twitch at 9 p.m. G2+7 time. Link in the description below. And I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching. Y'all take care and have a good one. See you, everybody. Take care.